This is Hemi.
And Jessica.
And you're listening to the Friendly Atheist Podcast. Please go to patreon.com/Friendly Atheist Podcast to support this show and get your bonus and ad-free episodes.
Hi.
Hello.
How are you?
Excellent.
Good.
So many crazy things to discuss with you.
All right. Let's hear them.
Okay.
I'm doing fine. Thank you for asking.
Excellent. The first one, I wanted to mention this. I think we ran out of time last week, but this is all I've been thinking about all week because you know how much I dislike younger people.
You sure do.
Yes. So there was a senior in high school who graduated recently. It's in Campbell County, Kentucky, which is like very North Kentucky, touching Cincinnati, Ohio sort of area, but relatively rural, like very white, very conservative area. And so Campbell County High School had their graduation, and one of the students who was tapped to speak was a senior named Micah White. And when he gets up there to speak, I mean, who speaks at a graduation if you're a student?
Valedictorian, salutatorian, class president.
Things like that,
Yeah.
yes. Some schools, however, allow graduating students to like apply or audition for that opportunity.
Okay.
And this is one of the two people, I think, who was selected to speak for whatever reason. Okay, fine. Which means he submitted the speech he planned to give. He got it approved. He even had to, I think, rehearse it in front of administrators and was told that, you know, if you deviate from what you are preparing and sharing with us, that may have
pull the plug.
repercussions. Yeah. He was also reminded, just standard notice to everybody, graduation is for everybody. And of course, he deviated from the remarks.
Oh, boy. In a good way, in a fun way or an uncomfortable way for me
Never
personally?
in a fun way.
God
The first
damn
thing
it.
he says, before...
Sometimes in a fun way. We've seen our share of like queer kids giving their valedictorian speeches and just like fucking going off. It's good.
That could happen.
Yes.
This guy begins
didn't
with,
in this case.
before another word is to meet my mouth, I must give the honor, the praise, and the glory to my Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ.
What do you think people from Kentucky sound like?
That. But then, like...
Mid-Atlantic accents?
Thank you. And then he goes on to say, I'm here to tell you, if you don't have any of those things in your life and you can't seem to find the answer, that my Lord and Savior is your answer. He will give you the truth, give you the way and the life.
You know who I'm looking toward for real strong life advice is an 18-year-old dork.
Yes. So... like, it's one thing to say, I want to praise Jesus while I'm up here. It's another to say, hey, all of you out there.
You're doing it wrong.
Yeah, if you don't have it, let me introduce you and sell you some Jesus.
Yeah.
Like, which is, for all the things that are wrong with it, it's just a thoughtless message. The idea that whatever anxiety you have at this stage in your life, which is a lot, can be cured with Christianity. That whatever you believe, if it's not Christianity, is a lie, and you're heading in the wrong direction. The rest of his speech was secular in a like general sense, but none of it was memorable. But that's fine. That's not a problem. But think about what this does for the administration at this point.
That's an awkward place to put them.
Yeah, it poses a problem because it was their job to approve every speech down to the word. They literally said, we're vetting your speeches, and they did, and they signed off on this, which means like, oh, so now the school board, now the school district can be theoretically on the hook for this proselytizing. And so they took very quick action to say, we have nothing to do with this.
Did they?
Yeah.
They did the right thing?
Kind of. They approved his first lines, which were in the draft, where he said, I want to give thanks to Jesus, like his personal thing.
Sure.
They're like, yeah, fine, I guess you can say that. But they never signed off on this idea that everyone else was a failure for not adopting Jesus.
I mean, isn't that just something a kid from Kentucky learns by watching preachers? Of like, hey, you got a crowd, yell at them about how they're doing it wrong.
Right. The superintendent of the district says his principal chose him to give a speech, that they approved the speech ahead of time, but he went off script, basically. The superintendent said all speakers were told that going off their submitted speech or any unplanned choices at graduation may have repercussions as they would at any school function.
Like one of those big hooks at a vaudeville show?
Yeah, but they let him stay on. He got to finish his speech, whatever. And in a statement, this is where I got annoyed by the school district. Because in a statement to the local news where they said, we had nothing to do with this, don't blame us, it was all the kid, blame the kid. They were like,
Classy.
quote, while many of us are proud of this young man's beliefs and are practicing Christians ourselves, we didn't say yes to any of this.
I guess they kind of had to, right? Like, especially in a place like Kentucky, a white area that's probably almost all Christian. Like, they kind of had to be like, hey, we don't disagree with this message. It's just inappropriate for, like, they really...
That's the sort of tacit endorsement they would never give if this guy wasn't a Christian.
100%. But they're also, like, trying to talk out of both sides of their mouth.
We're proud of this young man's Satanism, and we approve it, but he did what he wasn't supposed to do. I mean, again, what if a student told people how to vote? What if the student got up there and just started swearing left and right? What if they put political statements on their graduation caps and gowns? Because this is the concern for the school district. We want it to be neutral, in a sense, so that everyone can enjoy it. And this kid goes out of his way to not do that, and now the school district is in the awkward position of saying, don't blame us for this, but also it's fine with us, but also don't blame us, don't sue us, it's his fault, but we're proud of him. Like, I can't tell if they're mad or not.
They're really walking a tightrope.
And so what repercussions did this kid face?
I mean, none, right?
Well, he didn't get his diploma that day.
Oh.
That was the thing.
That's quite a repercussion.
He received it after a private conversation with the principal. I guess he was supposed to, according to like the rules or whatever, he would have to explain himself to the school board. But that changed to just meet with the principal like a day or two later, and we'll give you your diploma then, which is what happened. He met with the principal. I don't know what was said. I don't know if they're just like, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, here's your diploma, now go away. We're just going to call this
cool
done
for
with.
once, dude.
Yeah. On TikTok, the kid, who's 18, so I feel no qualms about being mad at him, he admitted on TikTok he did break the rules. He said, if anyone is in the wrong, it's me. I went against school policies, school rules. I went against that because...
Jesus.
Because I serve a higher power. Which, because he's Christian, he gets to break whatever rules he wants.
Sir, you serve botany class. You are 18 years old.
And for what it's worth, like, I don't think he needed a more serious punishment. He got his diploma on a delay. That should be the end of it. I could care less. He even went on TikTok. He's like, look, guys, I got my diploma. He saw there were headlines saying this guy, Christian child, like, doesn't get diploma because he praises Jesus. He's like, you guys, I do have my diploma. It's fine. I broke the rules. I met with the principal. I got my diploma now. Stop threatening the administration, which is a thing that was happening.
Oh my God, just like Jesus would do. I don't know how to feel about this. Like, it sounds like an 18-year-old made a dumb decision, which is their want.
Yep.
And everybody reacted appropriately, except for the people issuing death threats.
Those are called the Christians.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I'm sorry. They have the stones and everything. It's part of their Barbie accessory. I mean, it seems like a kid did a stupid thing. It was addressed appropriately, and the consequences were appropriate.
Yeah. And this kid in the video, he has posted, you could tell through his videos that he has posted on TikTok since, he doesn't really understand why his comments were a problem. He acts like, well, I colored outside the lines, and so they were a little mad. They said, don't do that, but I
said different words than I said I would say. He's not giving the weight to the fact that he's proselytizing in a secular school.
Right.
Which he probably doesn't get, because I'm telling you, somebody who works with teenagers, they're fucking dumb and they don't think things through. Like, I am not blaming this 18-year-old dum-dum for making a stupid decision when he has a platform. I don't... Yeah,
in case he
care.
ever listens, he won't. But in case he's ever listening to this, here's the problem, the many problems with what he did. He doesn't understand that, guess what? Christian graduates in the audience almost certainly have the same anxiety as everyone else. Jesus doesn't absolve them from that. He doesn't understand that he was supposed to be a representative for all students, and he made it about himself and only himself and his best personal imaginary friend. He doesn't understand that what he said was a slap in the face to the religious minorities in the audience, of which there are almost certainly a bunch, because it doesn't matter where you live.
Yep.
They've probably spent years dealing with arrogant Christians like this dude, and now, finally, they're going to be able to break free from them, but not at graduation.
Yeah.
Like, still got to deal with it. There's also nothing courageous about expressing your Christian faith in northern Kentucky. like where Christians are in the majority and have a tendency to bully minorities. He doesn't get that what he did was the height of Christian privilege because there's no way in hell a Muslim or an atheist pulling off the same stunt would have gotten away with it with such small consequences. He doesn't get that his last memory that he has left for his teachers and administrators is that, oh yeah, that kid, he's the one that created a bigger hassle for us on his way out.
Yeah.
We have to talk to the media now about this. Or the fact that because of him, there were threats sent to the administrators, despite his lack of real punishment. He doesn't get that the way he thanked the people who gave him his education was by lying to them about his intentions at the ceremony, or that the graduates got to that day by working their ass off and not by praying or by worshiping his God. Like, hey, you know how you studied for those finals the other week?
Didn't have to.
Nope.
Jesus told me.
Yep.
Jesus is my crib sheet. That's
So,
my
like-
next t-shirt.
This guy has his... This guy graduated. He has his diploma. Doesn't have any wisdom.
He's 18, haven't. Listen, it's not that
Only
you're
thing
wrong.
I hate more than 18-year-old graduates is 11-year-olds with college degrees.
Yeah, you do really have it out for the children with whom you work, by the way. So,
Those kids are fine.
oh yeah,
It's everyone
It's
else's
because you
kids.
yell at them and they don't talk to you anymore. No, I just, yes, you're right about all of those points, and this is a shitty situation that a kid made a shitty decision. The reaction around it sucks, all of that stuff. But like, I find it hard to level. I
Do
don't
you?
know.
Because I find it very easy.
Yeah, no, I know, but it's stupid. It's a kid with bad role models who, like, I mean, listen, think about every, like, prominent Christian in the world right now. All they are doing is, like, interrupting regularly scheduled program to talk about their great deep love of Jesus. So he is doing what he thinks Christians are supposed to do, I assume.
And blocking a protect contraception bill in the Senate. That
Well,
was their
obviously, Jesus hated sex.
condoms, yeah.
Condoms? I don't know.
Birth
No.
control.
Christians are bad when they control anything. This kid was in the wrong. People were even more wrong for threatening the things. It sounds I don't know. It sucks. And
I swear there
hope
are more-
that kid learns a lesson and doesn't become the next, like, Fox News talking head because he wants to, like, rail on this. I don't know.
There are more serious stories coming up. I'm just saying, not a fan.
No, I mean, yeah, but what white kid from Kentucky are you a big fan of?
Fair point. I
My
need
friend
to think
Leslie.
about it.
You like Leslie. She's in her 30s. I don't think she's a kid anymore.
All right, 1 for 7 million in Kentucky. Let's talk about Oklahoma. I had to set you up for that, and now we're done. And their state, which by at least one account is ranked worse in the nation when it comes to education.
Correct.
The governor just signed a bill today.
Today. It's
which,
noon.
He
What
had a
time
busy
did I
morning.
get up in the morning?
I don't know. And they're hours before us. That would give students permission to ditch class in order to go learn about the Bible. Public school students now have the ability in Oklahoma to skip certain classes to go to church and get credit for it at their public schools.
Credit in what?
Credit in Bible. I'll tell you more about this bill. The bill that Governor Kevin Stitt just signed today, it's House Bill 1425.
I'm sorry, what's his name?
Kevin Stitt.
I thought you said Kevin Smith, and I
Yes,
was
he
about to
has
talk
a side job.
He only wears hockey jerseys.
There you go.
And writes movies about Catholicism.
Yes. That guy is the governor of Kentucky. And House Bill 1425 allows...
The governor of Kentucky.
Yep. I'm sorry, Oklahoma.
Oklahoma.
It requires public school districts to create what's known as a released time course. Release time. Get used to that phrase. It has a D at the end of released, which messes
Released
with me.
time?
Released
Yeah,
time.
release time.
Other states have this.
Is it
By the way,
hyphenated?
nope.
Oh.
It is legal, like, across the country, but some states... this is a new Christian nationalism thing that is making the rounds now, and Oklahoma's the latest to do it. But basically, here's what this does. In Oklahoma, it allows public school students to be excused for up to 3 classes a week, that's 125 a year, roughly, in order to attend, quote, a course in religious or moral instruction. Schools then have to give students elective credit for those courses, even though there's no set curriculum, even those classes do not have to be taught by licensed or certified teachers. If the church says, yeah, they passed the class, they got an A, whatever, the school has to give them credit for it.
Okay, wait. Does this mean that like every church in the greater Kentucky area,
Oklahoma
area has to like prep for a high school level religion course?
Oh, they could offer it. And they could say, and here's the thing, let me give you some more info on this. It's basically this bill is a fancy way of saying students can skip class to attend Bible study. There is nothing in the bill that says those Bible studies need to be academically rigorous in any meaningful way. It's not Bible as literature. It's just Bible. It's Sunday school.
Bible as Bible.
But the rest of the week. Now, here are the secular safeguards that are in place, but they don't change much of anything.
I heard the moral whatever.
Yeah. The moral education.
I'm curious what that looks like.
The Bible.
Yeah.
So the religious
Old Testament
classes
or New Testament.
The classes would be taught by outside groups, which the school has nothing to do with it,
right.
In other words. Parents have to opt in to letting their kids participate. No school funds are used for anything. So, for example, if students would be transported to a local church for these classes, the church would have to pay for the transportation and everything like that. Students would also have to make up any missed assignments for whatever class they're skipping, and they cannot skip certain classes like English or math or something like that. Like a core class you can't skip, but art or music you're allowed to skip.
Is there a age restriction?
Nope.
Really?
Kindergarten through 12.
Kindergarten through, I was just thinking high school.
Nope.
Wait, so what does this look like in practice?
In practice, what this means is like, hey, high school kids, for example, your 8th period class, you can go off campus to church, take your Sunday school class, and come back to school. Maybe that's at the end of the day, whatever. And then you come back to school afterwards. And the church will pick you up, drop you off, teach you. And then the church will say, yep, Jessica passed. So you get whatever, a credit hour for it.
When I was in high school, our gym class had a bowling unit, and we got to go to Willowbrook Lanes.
Congrats.
Is that kind of the same thing, do you think?
But here's the difference. Your gym class would still be taught by a certified teacher. You are still doing something.
That is generous. Left
there
to
you
our
go.
own devices, maybe more accurate.
But there is a rubric, there is a curriculum that is attached to it that has been vetted in some sort of way.
Be better at bowling.
Yes. And other stuff, though. You're not doing that all semester either.
Right.
And the thing is, for these classes, there is a difference between we'll teach you several sports, bowling included, versus no, we're just telling you Adam and Eve story or something like that. Not in here's the literary allusions to it. It's like, here's the takeaway about sin. Now, here's why this is legal. Because the school isn't promoting it. They're not doing anything about it. Like, they're just saying, well, you have that option. And if churches want to set up a program for you to do it, you can do it. That's why it's legal. No one is saying this is a church-state separation issue in that sense. But in practice, this is a Christian nationalist dream come true, because who's going to set up things like this? It's usually evangelical megachurches. It's usually Catholic churches that have the resources to offer the courses, put teachers in place to teach them, pay for all the costs associated with them. But the practical problems of all of this are pretty obvious. Because if you're skipping class for these lessons, especially if you're leaving the same class every week,
right,
you're going to be academically behind, even if you are taking an elective class.
Yeah, I guess I don't understand how, like, so the kid gets to arbitrarily pick what class he wants to miss?
They wouldn't get to pick it. The church would say, we're offering this course from
X o'clock.
Yeah.
Huh.
And the students can't be punished for saying, I'm skipping school to do this.
Hey, Hammett, this doesn't seem like a good law. And it seems like it's going to be pretty hard to enforce.
We'll get back to that.
Oh, okay.
So students who skip
I just wanted
classes,
to give you my overall thoughts on the situation.
Students who skip class, especially if they're leaving the same class every time, they could be academically behind their peers, even if we are talking about skipping an elective course. It makes life harder for those teachers, because even if those kids can legally skip, the days they are in class, you don't know what's going on. I got to reteach you some stuff so that you can make sense of what I need to teach you today.
Yeah.
It's the reason, like, high school teachers especially hate field trips, Because if you left to go see a play for your English class and I'm your math teacher, well, guess what? You're still skipping my class. And when you come back the next day, it's going to be harder for me to catch you up, etc. And while they can't skip certain required classes, but they can skip art or music or gym, that implies that those subjects and those teachers aren't as important for their development, which we can make an argument against that.
Don't like that.
Plus, churches already have ways to indoctrinate kids. Why are they interrupting the school day to do it?
Because they want more.
Yeah. Then there's the peer pressure. Because guess what? Depending on where you live, if all your friends are going to this Bible class, and, by the way, getting prizes and candy while they are there, which has happened, documented.
I mean, that's why I went to the dentist, baby.
You're going to want to go too, which is not illegal, but it's another strain on families who are religious minorities. And it's not hard to imagine certain public schools where, like, at some point in the day, the only kids left behind are Muslim,
Yeah, it's like
Jewish.
the 3 brown kids in the Kentucky school. And like the one lonely atheist kid who's like, I don't get this.
Yeah. So in Tennessee in 2020, they passed a very similar law requiring public schools to allow these programs to exist. And like, you can't punish a kid for doing this, even though they're legally allowed to do it.
Sure.
It meant students in Tennessee could skip up to 180 hours per year, which was 22.5 full days of school gone.
That's so much.
Yeah. In Ohio and other states, there is a Christian ministry called LifeWise Academy. Get used to that name because I'm sure we'll be discussing it a lot in the years to come. LifeWise, one word. LifeWise.
Is it camel case?
What is that?
Is it camel? Is the W capitalized?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, that's called camel case.
I mean, the only thing that would make that more Christian is if every letter was capitalized. But LifeWise Academy has become like a powerful force.
And spelled wrong?
Yeah. It's become a powerful force in the released time world because what they do is they're like, you guys, we already set up the courses for anyone who wants to use them. We took care of the curriculum. We will take care of the staff. We will do background checks. We will make sure you have qualified, quote unquote, teachers to teach these things. All you need to do wherever you are, like your local chapter or your local church, you can tap into our network for X amount of dollars, and we will take care of everything for you so that your church can offer our materials. NBC News reported in April that this group now has chapters in more than 300 schools in a dozen states, teaching 35,000 public school students. I looked at their website, by the way. Come look at the front page of their website for LifeWise, because they're bragging about this. Every week, tens of thousands of public school students legally attend LifeWise Bible classes during school hours, all caps. Like, they're very happy with the fact that they're doing this during the school day.
Yikes.
They're very excited about this.
Here's the thing. It seems to me that like this little particular nonprofit thing has their shit together and has lots of time and resources. It would be lovely to see them pour those resources into making schools better.
No, they do not care about public schools. And like, here's the thing.
That'd be nice.
While church-state separation is supposed to be maintained, what NBC News also found is like, guess what? That's not what actually happens.
Suck it.
This is from them. Opponents have also documented several instances of teachers and administrators, this is at public schools, promoting LifeWise to students, either by allowing LifeWise volunteers to visit classrooms, hosting school-wide assemblies, or advertising the program in paperwork sent home to parents. All of that is violating church-state separation. So all of that brings us back to Oklahoma, which has now passed the released time law, which, by the way, again, was already legal, but now they're like, hey, Christians, you guys can do this. Do you know you can do this? Because we just passed a law saying you could do this, which is to say LifeWise is going to take advantage of an already overwhelmingly Christian state.
Yeah.
In the state Senate in Oklahoma, this passed 38-7. And in the House, it actually barely scraped by 51-40. And in Oklahoma, you don't lose 40 votes without losing a lot of Republican votes. In fact, I think 25 House Republicans voted against it.
And what did they have to say? Like,
and their arguments,
citing similar reasons as us or not?
Partly, they're basically saying, one,
it's not Christian enough.
It's not going to help students do better in their classes because it's literally removing instructional time that could be spent elsewhere. Why not let families handle moral and religious instruction?
Or why not make it a 3 o'clock class and come right after? Oh,
good question.
thank you so much.
LifeWise does not allow their classes to be taught before or after school because their whole reason for being is to siphon away public school resources. So people have asked, can we offer LifeWise classes after school? And they're like, no. They do not want to waste after school time because we won't.
After school time is praying time.
Yeah. They're like, no. We want to make sure we reach all the kids. And after school, these kids are doing pot. They're doing clubs, other things that matter.
Pot and clubs.
Yes. They want to take up the school day specifically. They want to be a replacement for secular classes, not an addition to them. So yeah, LifeWise specifically, the biggest player in all of this is like, no. We won't give you our stuff if you want to do this after school. Well, you got to do it during the school day. And that's another reason even Republicans are like, dude, we're ranked like worst.
Yeah, like,
we're at the bottom of
helping?
the education list. Yeah. And again, it's
25 Republicans? 23?
25 House Republicans in Oklahoma are like, maybe do church on your own time, families. Here they are saying, like, we need moral education, families, we're family values. We got to do it at home and send kids to church. And they already have a problem with education. They've gotten backlash from public school teachers and unions for being so anti-education. And here's another bill that says, you know what we can do? Why don't we pull kids from public schools so they can learn Bible?
Well, they have to keep
that's why
Republican coffers full, so they want to undereducate as many people as they can.
Another reason 25 Republicans signed off against this is because maybe they already knew there were enough Republicans for it that their votes would not matter. So it's law as of today. Kevin Stitt signed it.
We had an argument about this last week.
Yeah. And now that he signed the bill, if there's any silver lining, maybe it's that the Satanic Temple says, well, guess what? We have a curriculum ready to go. It's called the Hellion Academy of Independent Learning, HAIL.
That's pretty good. Mm-hmm. That's very good.
And they say, by not vetoing this bill, Governor Stitt will allow the state to grant elective credit for religious and morality classes taught by the Satanic Temple, making it possible for parents to invite our HAIL program to their local public schools as soon as this fall. Will Governor Stitt make history by being the first to award school credit for classes taught by the Satanic Temple? We'll find out shortly. Unquote.
Oh, they're doing such good work out there.
Yeah. I talked to June Everett, who's their campaign director for HAIL, and she says they've already completed their second year doing this in Pennsylvania, where they also have release time. And that I asked her, like, all right, but it's one thing to offer these courses, but you got to get parents signing off saying it's okay for my kid to attend.
Yeah.
Do you actually have anyone who's attending? She said, yes, quote, parents were excited to send their children to HAIL. And she added that those parents typically are people who did not align with Christian nationalism or want biblical indoctrination, which is to say these are not atheists. These are not Satanist parents.
Sure.
There's a lot of other parents who are just like, I don't want my kid to go to like religious indoctrination, but I also don't want my kid to feel left out. So I do want to sign them up for something. And I get what you're doing because they're classes which are similar to what they offer with after-school Satan clubs. They're influenced around and inspired by their 7 fundamental tenets, which is like, be nice.
Yeah.
So they teach like morals.
Do what
and
you
empathy.
will is the whole of the law. That's not them. That's
something like
Aleister
that.
Crowley.
Sure. And basically they're saying, I mean, here's the other thing. If Satanists can find a way to create a more entertaining and enjoyable experience for kids, maybe one where they learn art and music and all these other subjects.
Listen, there is a shit ton of great art about Satan.
That too. I mean, you could argue the peer pressure would move in the other direction where kids are like,
if they're coming back with like tie-dyed shirts with Baphomet on them. Yeah!
With their candy.
Yeah.
And they're like, come join.
And it's like only Fireball candies.
Yeah. Atomic fireballs. Yes. Love it.
I love those.
Those are good.
You used to have them at your house, and I would eat one every time I recorded, and now I record
They're
here.
so good.
And I have no atomic fireballs.
Ryan Walters is the Christian nationalist.
Ryan Walters.
Who's the superintendent of public instruction in Oklahoma. There was a bill in Oklahoma, which I don't think has been signed yet by Stitt, but maybe that changes this week, which was about getting Christian chaplains in public schools. And when Satanists said, well, guess what? We're going to offer chaplains too. Ryan Walters tweeted, there will be no Satanists in Oklahoma schools, period.
Counterpoint.
The funny thing is after he said period, there was no period at the end of that, which That's just him. He's not a smart dude.
No, I agree with that. The period takes the place of the word period takes
No,
place
you
of the
can't say
physical
there will be
period.
no Satanists in Oklahoma schools, period, and then write the word period and then not have a period after it. That's
Well,
weird.
period isn't a complete sentence, Emmett. It's a sentence fragment.
It's a command, which makes it a sentence.
It could have an exclamation point
He didn't do
after
that
it
either.
because that would be an interjection.
In any
but
case, he said there are no Satanists.
Listen, I'm no fan of Ryan Walters, but I can't fault his grammar here.
You can fault his
let me
grammar.
look.
Yeah, this doesn't make any sense. You can't say there are no Satanists, there will be no Satanists in Oklahoma schools, period, and then not put a period after it.
Okay, what you're not saying is that it says there's nothing.
There will be no Satanists in Oklahoma schools.
With a punctuation mark period,
Yeah.
and then the word period
And
afterwards.
then no punctuation mark.
No, I understand. I thought the period was taking place of the actual punctuation mark period.
Oh, no.
As is bullshit. You're right,
Thank
Hemet.
you.
Congratulations.
Yes. He was saying
It doesn't need a period
I'm not
after
going to
period.
allow Satanist chaplains to get into public schools, which by
Period.
the way would be illegal because you can't say Christian chaplains are allowed but Satanist ones are not. But if
He doesn't know the laws.
he doesn't know the law. But is he going to try to pull off the same stunt here? Because I promise if he tries to do that or says that, then we got a lawsuit problem coming as well. And that's another reason, by the way, Republicans voted against this bill.
Sure.
They said by basically putting in writing all this stuff that was already legal, you are creating ways for parents to sue school districts. And like you're just creating a bigger hassle
But
for
also,
schools.
Aren't some of these bait for lawsuits? Or no?
There are
I
some
don't have a
there are
good-
some lawsuits where Christians want to bring it on, like we're gonna promote a candidate from the pulpit, so you'll come after us, IRS, and if you revoke our tax exempt status, we're taking this to our friends at the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
Those are bait like things
Okay.
that they could try to do. This one is straight up, no, just let Christians do whatever they want.
Got you.
Oklahoma doesn't need to do this, but because Christians are running the show and Republicans are cowardly, this is a law now. So the question is, where do they go from here? We will see.
Interesting. Can't believe Oklahoma's school system is so bad. They have such smart
'Cause
people
this is-
running it.
This is what they focus on. At the same time, there was another kind of bombshell reporting in the Washington Post this week about vouchers. And like, here's the thing. If you ask me, what is the biggest church-state separation issue in America right now? The answer is not outrageous comments from crazy Republicans or trying to shove the Ten Commandments or chaplains into classrooms. The answer is actually far less attention grabbing, which is why it's such a problem. And it's that a number of states are taking money that should be going to public schools and using them to fund private schools. And those private schools are almost always religious schools.
Yeah.
And those religious schools are almost always Christian schools. So they are using taxpayer dollars to fund religious indoctrination. How much money are we talking here? So this is from the Washington Post this week from reporters Laura Meckler and Michelle Borstein. They looked into the voucher programs across the country, and here are the numbers. In just 5 states, more than 700,000 students are receiving these taxpayer-funded vouchers. And we are talking about billions of dollars supporting these programs, up to $16,000 per kid per year that they are getting to go to private Christian schools. 11 states have voucher programs. An additional 17 states, plus Washington, D.C., have smaller versions of these programs.
Is this related to that Supreme Court decision about Maine schools?
We are going to talk about that. Yes, it does.
Okay.
And basically now, the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities, which is a nonpartisan group, they say at least 1 in 3 states are either considering or have enacted school voucher expansions, and they're contributing to under-resourced public schools, worse student outcomes, and over time, weaker communities. So here's what is happening in Ohio right now, where vouchers are now being used by over 150,000 kids. This is from their article. When vouchers for students with autism and other disabilities who typically seek specific services are removed from the list, the portion going toward religious education rises to 98%.
Wow.
So in Ohio, vouchers, 98% of the voucher money is going to religious education when you take away disabilities and autism. At some Ohio schools, as many as 8 in 10 students attend it with the help of vouchers. And we're talking about private religious schools where most of their kids are voucher babies. So there's one student, a boys-only St. Xavier High School in Cincinnati.
Still doing gender-separated schools?
Catholic schools, man. They enrolled 1,346 students. Of those students, 1,100 get taxpayer-funded vouchers.
Holy shit.
In Arizona, 75,000 students take advantage of a particular taxpayer-funded scholarship. And check this out. In 2022-2023 school year, 3/4 of the money, about $229 million, went to 184 vendors or schools. Most of that money went for tuition, 87% of it to religious schools. So what's happening is all these states are saying, oh, it's legal to do vouchers. It's legal to say, we'll give you money to attend the school of your choice. These parents, many of whom could afford it on their own, are saying, yeah, we'll take some of that voucher money and send our kid to a private school where we were already sending our little kids. And by the way, now they're saying, oh, you allow us to spend this money on private schools? Well, we can use it at private religious schools too, because you can't stop us. And here's the thing. The argument in favor of all this is that school choice allows parents to choose the best education for their kids. And if that happens to be a religious school, so be it. But the reality is that many kids receiving this cash are already attending private schools. They don't need the money. And public schools are missing out on funds that they already need. And that's especially concerning since public schools, by definition, are for everyone, while private schools can choose, in some cases, to reject students with special needs or students who have same-sex parents or students who may need additional help. And that decreased funding from public schools, it disproportionately affects schools in low-income neighborhoods and ones that serve students of color specifically. And that's why in states where Republicans control the legislature, this is quickly becoming a financial problem as well as an ethical one. Because in Arizona, for example, the cost of these vouchers have now exceeded the $624 million budgeted for the year, contributing, I'm quoting from the Washington Post again, contributing to a budget hole that lawmakers have not said how they will fill. And Arizona is a state where Republicans control both houses.
Can't wait to see how they fit. The thing is, they don't care about, not having a budget if it's like, we need to work on roads or whatever.
They don't have the money for that.
They don't have the money for
schools,
that, but they have money to send half their students to a Christian college or a Christian high school or whatever.
Yeah, a representative of a group that opposes vouchers said Arizona schools are not able to pay for teacher pay raises or desperately needed resources.
Oh, well, who cares about that shit?
I know. You have teachers begging for copy paper and markers. It's so bad. But here's Arizona Republicans saying, yeah, we'll budget so that private schools can take this money and basically help the rich get richer or help the religious schools fuel their indoctrination. Like, even beyond that, an argument could be made that these vouchers are letting parents send their kids to an overwhelmingly white private school instead of a more integrated public school because the very idea of school choice, as anyone who actually studies history would be aware in America, that idea has racist origins.
Of course it does.
Right? You don't want Brown v. Board of Education. You don't want your kid going to an integrated public school. Well, guess what? I'm just going to send my kid to a private school. So as far as religion goes, why is this happening? This is what you brought up earlier. Well, in 2020, the conservative supermajority decided a case called Espinosa v. Montana Department of Revenue, where they said if that taxpayer dollars could subsidize private religious education. If the state, like Montana, offered funding for any private schools at all, they may have to extend that offer to private religious schools, depending on the type of funding. But the main case that you brought up was a different one later on in 2022. That case said in Maine, students are already guaranteed free public education till they graduate high school. But in Maine, there are lots of rural parts of the state where there are no local public schools. So in Maine, they said students have the option of attending a private school on the state's dime, assuming they're accepted in those schools. State law, however, mandated those have to be secular schools because we can't have taxpayer money going to private religious schools.
Obviously.
Right-wing groups sued. They said if you're going to pay for private schools, you can't say no to private religious schools. And the Supreme Court in 2022 said, yep, they can't stop you from going to a private religious school. And so now, anytime they're offering dollars for private schools, which is vouchers, They are saying you can use those vouchers for private religious schools, and that has opened the floodgates. One commenter I saw online put it, forget separation of church and state. This is saturation of church and state, because the conservative Christians and Catholics who always pretend to be persecuted,
right,
they now have the most powerful people in the country, giving them legal justification to steal money from public schools to enrich themselves and lie to students.
I'll say on this end, 99% Invisible just put out a podcast, I want to say yesterday, called Fact Checking the Supreme Court. And I cannot recommend it more highly. I sent it to Hemant yesterday. It's basically a history of the amicus brief and its sort of overarching impact on how the Supreme Court makes decisions. And it's kind of scary, very interesting. I think worth checking out. 99% Invisible.
That means taxpayers in more than half the country with these voucher bills, they are now directly funding creationism, homophobia, anti-trans misinformation, and basically Sunday school nonsense masquerading as actual history and science.
Right.
And it's not going to stop there because, as we've discussed before, Oklahoma, again, is now on the verge of opening a publicly funded religious charter school that's operated by the Catholic Archdiocese of Oklahoma City and the Diocese of Tulsa. And again, they're being sued. It's in the courts to stop them from opening it. But the point is, that's a public school. That's why that's a problem. But here's taxpayer dollars propping up private religious schools. And instead of just giving that money to churches, like conservatives giving money to churches, they found a way to get public money going to their religious schools while destroying legal precedent along the way. It's not going to help students who need a good education because these laws are not meant to help them.
No.
They're just gifts for the rich. Vouchers are gifts for the rich who don't need financial help. Religious schools, it helps them even when they're not popular enough to exist on their own.
Yep.
Catholic schools love vouchers because people are dropping out of there like flies. They're like, what? Taxpayers are funding people to come to our school? Sure, let's go.
Yep.
And they hurt public schools. And that, by the way, has a ripple in communities because conservatives are then going to use that to justify even more money going to private schools.
Yeah.
Like, oh, the public school here is struggling. Well, then maybe we should give more vouchers to private schools because parents need a choice. It's like,
well,
yeah,
these public
you're
schools
the
are
reason
so
they're
bad. We need the kids to learn somewhere good. And it's like,
You're
yeah, if
the
only we
reason.
knew who is in charge of funding schools.
Yeah, you're the cause of the problem because you keep defunding them, which makes it harder to attract good teachers to those professions and makes it harder for students to learn with the resources they don't have there. And the people who live in these religious bubbles, they don't care about life on the outside. They're perfectly fine letting others suffer in the long term as long as they get to benefit in the short term.
Yikes.
Yay, vouchers.
Cool.
Should we move on to something less stressful?
Sure.
Yay. Let's talk about Southwest Airlines.
Oh, no, I like Southwest Airlines.
Yeah.
That's my airline of choice.
They're not bad if you can get them. So we talked about this like a year ago.
I
They're
have
back
drink
in the news
vouchers
now.
for them, so I'm not going to give up until I use those.
Sure. So lawyers for Southwest were back in court this week, and this is a year after a Trump-appointed federal judge told the lawyers for Southwest they needed to attend 8 hours of religious liberty training taught by the right-wing hate group Alliance Defending Freedom.
This doesn't sound familiar. What?
Okay, I'll backtrack it for a second.
Thank
and
you.
by the way, they also have to pay $800,000 to a Christian employee who said she was fired because of her religion. So here's the story. 2017,
Zoinks.
there was a flight attendant named Charlene Carter. She was fired by Southwest because they said, you've been posting anti-abortion messages online.
Oh, yeah.
If you look at the lawsuit that was eventually filed, that's not why she was fired for having like anti-abortion opinions. She repeatedly sent emails to and made social media posts about her union president attending the Women's March in 2017. She said things like, you truly are despicable in so many ways.
Oh my
These
God.
are private messages on Facebook that she just keeps bombarding this woman
This is
with.
on her wall, or she's actually sending them to her? Yeesh.
Sending them to the union president,
Oh my
saying like,
God.
you truly are despicable. And then posting repeatedly about all this stuff. She accused the union president of murder for supporting abortion rights.
Sure.
And when she's posting public posts on her wall, she is identifiable as a Southwest employee because there are pictures of her in uniform,
her uniform?
alongside other employees displaying her employee badge. So Southwest said, we're firing you because you have violated company policies regarding civility.
Yeah.
Because you're harassing the union president and because you are posting things where you are saying you are a Southwest employee.
Right, you're
You
representing the
can't do
company
that.
in this context.
And so what's the spin? She then sues
'Cause I'm
Southwest.
Christian.
She says you're firing me because I'm Christian, even though there is literally no evidence that her Christianity had anything to do with anything. And then she said, like, she's part of the union, even though she's anti-union, because that's how it works.
Well,
And
yeah,
then-
you still got all the benefits, even if you talk shit about it all the time.
So she filed a grievance with the union, and there was an arbiter involved, and the arbiter said, yeah, we're siding with the airline. So then she sues Southwest and the union, which, and listen, there are problems with arbiters who are like paid for by Southwest.
Oh, of course.
I get that.
HR is not your friend. HR is representing the company.
Right. And in this case, I'm like, yeah, the arbiter makes sense. The airline's not at fault here. But that's why she sued. That's why this went to court. And the thing is, this went in front of a jury. And the jury agreed with her that this was Christian persecution. And I don't know what the specifics are there, but they said she gets her job back, that Southwest has to stop discriminating against employees on the basis of religion, and that the company has to, quote, notify its flight attendants of Title VII's prohibition on religious discrimination. The jury also awarded Carter $5.1 million, including $1 million from the union. Now, here's the thing. Okay, the jury heard it. They made that decision, so Southwest had to abide by it. But it goes in front of a judge.
They couldn't appeal?
They could appeal. It goes in front of the judge. The judge reduces the amount to $800,000, first of all.
Okay.
But the judge says, like, all right, well, that's what the jury decided, so that's what you got to do. And that's fine. They can appeal, and that is part of what they are appealing. Fine. Now, here's the problem. Southwest was supposed to tell its flight attendants that the company may not discriminate against them due to their religious beliefs and practices. Doesn't matter if they don't like it, they don't agree to it. That was the decision.
Yeah.
Fine. And that's the way the jury decided. So too bad. You got to go with it. But here's the thing. They had to tell their employees, their flight attendants, the company may not discriminate, which implies we won't do it in the future, right? But when they sent out that notice, it said Southwest does not discriminate on the basis of religion. And we talked about this before, but I'll recap this. When they said we do not discriminate, that suggests we don't currently do that, but who knows what the future holds. That was the implication with the wording.
Are you fucking kidding me?
Hold that thought. You're going to get angrier. They also did not include a mention of Title VII when they sent out that notice. So Carter, the flight attendant, says, hey, court, punish Southwest. They didn't do what they were supposed to do. And last August, this side issue goes in front of a Trump judge. His name is Brantley Starr. Brantley. He issues a decision saying, it's hard to see how Southwest could have violated the notice requirement more.
Jesus Christ.
And then he said, let me give you some examples of how wrong Southwest was. And I will use some modified historical and movie anecdotes to help you out understanding what this is. Historical and movie. You know what he used for historical?
God, I have no idea.
The Bible. Here's what he says about the Bible. After God told Adam, you must not eat from the tree in the middle of the garden, imagine Adam telling God, I do not eat from the tree in the middle of the garden, while an apple core rests at his feet. As for the movie anecdote, he cited Lord of the Rings. He said,
Listen, you keep Lord of the Rings out your mouth.
Or where Gandalf bellows, you shall not pass, the Balrog muses, I do not pass, while strolling past Gandalf on the bridge of Khazad-dûm.
That's not what happened.
I don't know.
That's not what happened.
Anyway.
Gandalf used a will not pass and collapsed the bridge. The Balrog fell into the pit.
The point
he fell,
is-
and then he had to fight the Balrog on the mountain. He defeated the Balrog, came back as Gandalf the White. This isn't difficult, dog.
I've never seen the movie. I have no idea what you're talking about. So Starr holds Southwest in contempt for not following grammar rules. And he literally writes out the new memo that the company has to send its employees.
We've been a very bad company, and we're super sorry about this. We promise to make Christians the most special boys and girls in our company.
And then he forgets the period at the end, because that's what Christians do. So then, because he says there is, quote, chronic failure regarding federal protections for religious freedom, he said, hey, lawyers for Southwest who don't know how to do this, and I do, he says, you need religious freedom training. And then he says in the order, don't worry, I know who can provide that training for you. The Alliance Defending Freedom. The right-wing crazy group.
I truly am honestly having trouble not crying right now. I am genuinely so fucking angry.
So in explaining this, he says, don't worry, Southwest, you don't have to pay for the training. You just got to fly someone from ADF to your headquarters in Dallas, which is a minimal burden. But like, why that group? Why not just say you got to get religious freedom training, go take care of it, you got to pay for it, it's your fault. No. Why that group specifically? This Trump-appointed judge, said ADF is one of...
by them.
He said they are one of many, quote, esteemed nonprofit organizations that are dedicated to preserving free speech and religious freedom. And also they're offering it free of charge.
Oh, so generous. So brave.
Nowhere in the order was there any explanation for why ADF and not like a credible group had to provide the training.
They don't have to justify their decisions.
Journalist Chris Geidner, who writes at a site called Law Dork, he explained why this was stupid. ADF's lawyers, including Aaron Hawley, whose husband is Senator Josh Hawley, are the ones who are litigating to end the availability of the abortion medication drug. They're the group behind the I don't want to make a wedding website for you because you're gay, that lawsuit. ADF is not, this is Chris here, ADF is not an unbiased educational institution, nor does it pretend to be. The only relevant training its website discusses in the training section is a legal academy connecting like-minded attorneys in an effort to show lawyers how to effectively advocate for religious liberty, free speech, the sanctity of life, and marriage and family. Like, it's a conservative legal group that only sees religious freedom while wearing Jesus glasses, right? These ADF has argued that sodomy should be illegal.
Sure.
They have spread lies about LGBTQ people supporting pedophilia. They have defended forced sterilization of trans people in Europe. Like, bigotry in the name of Christianity counts as religious freedom for ADF lawyers. So, like, why the hell are they the ones conducting this training? And, by the way, not only was that a problem, this was also a bizarre choice because Charlene Carter, the flight attendant in the middle of all this, she didn't even ask for it. Like,
well, the judge is being punitive.
This is just the judge doing it. So, their track record, ADF's track record, suggests they don't know what religious freedom is. And it wasn't even clear ADF would agree to this, even though he said, don't worry, just pay for one of their people to come out to train you or something like that. So, why am I talking about this? This week, lawyers for Southwest appeared in front of the appellate court, basically saying, we should not have to pay this woman $800,000 because this wasn't religious persecution. The jury was wrong, they're saying. And again, there's been a lot of discussion about like, do you not like what a jury says suddenly, even though you loved it when they said something about Trump? It's like no one's saying the jury should be ignored.
Everything goes into appeals. Like, that's the legal system.
You can appeal it. So that's what they are doing here. But what they're saying is we're not even going to touch the ADF thing. We're not going to touch that right now. We're saying you should reverse this because it wasn't religious discrimination. And if that is reversed and it's not religious discrimination, well, then guess what? We wouldn't have to take religious discrimination training. So that's a side issue. But that's why we were discussing this a year ago, because that was a crazy move by the Trump judge. So now they're in front of the appellate court saying the monetary award should be reversed. They say firing her. Carter's attorneys, the Christian flight attendant, they argued that they fired her because she's a Christian and anti-abortion. They say firing her violated federal law, shielding employees from religious-based discrimination, right? Southwest argues, no, we fired her because she violated company rules requiring civility in the workplace by sending, quote, hostile and graphic anti-abortion messages to the union leader. Okay? I was looking at some of these separate amicus briefs, FFRF's Sam Grover, he wrote an amicus brief saying, yeah, you should reverse the punishment for Southwest, saying it's entirely unprecedented for the court to force attorneys to attend training by an ideological advocacy organization.
Yeah, it's insane.
And also, this wasn't religious discrimination. And also, if they rule in Southwest's behalf this time, then, you know, there's a couple ways the court could go about it. They could say, fine, well, we won't reverse the $800,000, but we will take a stand and say you can work together on deciding who does your religious discrimination training. They could reverse it entirely.
Yeah.
We don't know yet. ADF filed a brief saying we're not taking sides in this issue, even though they have taken sides in this issue. And they're saying we can totally provide religious freedom training because we've been very good at winning First Amendment cases in front of the Supreme Court.
That's how you know.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah, of course you do because they're all your buddies up there.
Yeah.
So anyway, bottom line for now is the case is in the hands of the Fifth Circuit. Ideally, they will reverse the earlier ruling and nix the religious training sessions in the process, but it shouldn't have gotten to this point. I don't know what the jury saw that made them say was religious discrimination.
I'm really wondering what evidence got held back.
Right.
That tends to be the thing of like they, for whatever reason, somebody decided the direct messages weren't admissible for whatever.
Yeah.
That'd be my guess is that they did not get the whole story, or people are really fucking dumb.
That could happen too. So I don't know the answer, but I hope they reverse this decision because it was an absurd decision. Because if you can't fire someone for being a pain in your side and crossing the line in so many different ways, what can you fire them for?
Yeah.
Even when she went through all
if
of her
the union leader isn't on your side, like you sort of fucked up.
And that's the thing. You can be anti-union. You can have personal problems with the union leader. But again, in like any workplace or human interaction, you figure out how to deal with it civilly because this is your job.
Yeah, this isn't your little playground to decorate.
And
how
no
you
one's
want.
stopping her from having crazy conspiratorial views in her personal capacity.
You can believe in a flat Earth all you want, because I know Southwest doesn't do international flights. She maybe hasn't crossed an ocean, so maybe she thinks the world is flat. Who knows?
Maybe. Let's talk about one more court case. We didn't get to this last week, but I wanted to bring it up.
Court
Nope,
case.
you get two.
My brain is broken. My
right,
depression is taking over.
Well, let me feed it a little bit more. There was that Christian zealot last year in Iowa who vandalized the Satanic Temple's display in the Iowa Capitol.
I forgot
Remember
about
him?
that, yeah.
His name was Michael Cassidy. He basically, the Satanic display in the Iowa Capitol, it was an altar with a mirror-covered ram's head representing Baphomet.
It was really dope looking.
Yeah, wearing a red cloak, a wreath. Toward the bottom, surrounded by candles, there were tiny plaques listing the 7 fundamental tenets. Cute, funny. It was interesting. And then, why was that display there? Because Iowa lawmakers said, we want to allow a nativity scene in the Capitol. Why don't we just say anyone can put up a display in the Capitol? And not only did the Satanists say, all right, we're joining in. So did the Freedom from Religion Foundation, and so did like the Iowa Atheists and Freethinkers.
Yeah, it sounds like when you open up the thing for everybody comes.
Yeah, when you have a public forum, the public gets involved. And the Satanic display was supposed to come down after like 2 weeks. So it was like a day or so before it was supposed to come down anyway. And this Christian guy named Michael Cassidy drives to Iowa from wherever the hell he's from. It was like a long drive.
Yeah.
Comes there, vandalizes the entire display, and like openly brags about doing it.
I wonder how many Baphomet statues he passed on the way to this particular one. It's really not a good use of gas mileage.
No kidding. There was a right-wing media outlet called The Sentinel.
Oh, what is their take on this?
They were really quick to say, you guys, we have breaking news. We know who the vandal is. By the way, he's our buddy. And so they published this whole thing like, we have our first interview
an
with them.
attaboy thing?
Pretty much. The media outlet, which again, think about what you would have to do to be respected as a media outlet. They're like, hey, there's a GoFundMe to support this guy's legal defense. We started it for this dude. But they interviewed him.
It really is us versus them, huh? They are really banding together. No matter what shitty thing a Christian does in the name of Christianity, they're now having to Back it up.
I'm paraphrasing
Oh my
a
God,
tweet
Handmaid's
here,
Tale.
but there is some tweet, I think about it like 4 times a day. And it's like every right-wing media outlet has billions of dollars of funding at their disposal, whereas every liberal media outlet has $3 that they just shuffle between each other,
Yeah.
which is always the case.
That's pretty good.
But this outlet, the Sentinel, they spoke with Cassidy like the day of the vandalism. And here's what he says. The world may tell Christians to submissively accept the legitimization of Satan, but none of the founders would have considered government sanction of satanic altars inside Capitol buildings as protected by the First Amendment.
Oh, did they say that in the Constitution or the Bill of Rights or the Declaration of Independence? Because I think they were really fucking specific about what they wanted this country to look like.
No women voters, no black voters, no Satan displays in our Capitol buildings.
Yeah, bing, bang, boom.
Then Cassidy says, anti-Christian values have steadily been mainstreamed more and more in recent decades.
Wait,
This is anti-Christian.
is that them complaining?
This is him complaining. He says
That mainstream Christian, or that Christian values have been mainstreamed and that's bad for him? Oh.
That anti-Christian values
Anti-Christian.
have been mainstreamed.
Gotcha.
What are those anti-Christian values? Let me quote from the 7 fundamental
Abortion,
tenets.
gay marriage,
One should strive,
punching babies.
One should strive to act with compassion and empathy toward all creatures in accordance with reason.
Boo!
Yeah. So that's what Cassidy was telling this right-wing
I
outlet.
want to shoot a deer.
And again, what part of those 7 tenets do you think is anti-Christian? I wish they would answer that.
Oh, I'd love that.
Basically, it's anything that's not pro-Jesus, they just assume is anti-Christian.
You know what this reminds me of is like another tweet I'm going to paraphrase about somebody being like, I think that we should round up all homophobes and put them on an island. And somebody responds like, see, Christian discrimination at its finest. And he's like, I didn't say Christian. I said homophobe.
Yeah.
And that is also what it makes me think of.
So Cassidy, after he spoke with his buddies at this right-wing outlet, he turns himself in. He's like, you guys, I did it, because he wants the credit.
Is this man having a mental break, or was he being egged on by people? Like, I'm
going to answer that in a second. You decide if he's having a mental breakdown or not, because all right, I'll answer that. But I think he just assumed nothing bad would happen to him because he's a white Christian.
Oh, the Fire Island
you know
syndrome.
I mean? So
Fire Island? That's not it.
Firefest. Firefest, yeah. So he says, I will plead guilty to 4th-degree criminal mischief. Fourth? It's like the lowest level of criminal mischief.
I figured.
Right?
That's why I yelled fourth.
Yeah, and that carries a fine anywhere between like $300 to like $2,000, somewhere in there. He's like, I'll pay that fine. But he did face up to a year in jail, theoretically. But as far as the fine is concerned, that's nothing. Guess how much that fundraiser has raised so far?
Oh, $20,000?
$134,000.
By the way, my medical debt collectors have started calling.
Do you have $134,000 at your disposal?
You have to know I don't. You know what I make. We make the same amount of money.
So, here's why I don't know if this guy is he off his rocker? Because then I'd have a different opinion about some of this stuff. And by the way, there was a Christian who vandalized actual 10 Commandments monuments outside the Arkansas State Capitol building, rammed his car into it.
Oh,
he was Christian.
Yeah. That guy was having a mental break.
There was an argument that he was having a mental breakdown. This guy, Michael Cassidy, he is a one-time Navy pilot. He was
those guys never go off the rocker.
Well, he's previously a candidate for Congress from Mississippi in 2022, but he lost the GOP primary. In November of 2023, he was a Republican candidate for a seat in the Mississippi State House. He lost the general election to a Democrat in Mississippi. So, again, I'm not saying he is or isn't mentally stable.
If you guys could have seen Heaven's face when he said in Mississippi, it was devastating.
There's 3 Democrats in Mississippi, and one of them beat this guy.
Them all.
Yeah. So again, just because this
in
guy
Mississippi, that was very funny for me.
And by the way, plenty of conservative Christians were celebrating his act. They were not saying, don't do this, it's a mental breakdown or something. Plenty of conservative
the
Christians.
Baphomet statue, they don't think it's okay.
They were saying it's okay. On Twitter, the Sentinel, the right-wing media outlet, they tweeted about this, calling it an incredible story of Christian conviction and zeal, because it's not a news outlet. Charlie Kirk, he posted that his organization would pledge $10,000 to the legal defense fund. A bunch of other right-wing troll accounts.
And are they saying just because Satan has no place and he did the right thing and et cetera? Or is it
Pretty
just
much.
like our boys in trouble, we have
That
to
too.
rally the troops?
That too. Joshua Feuerstein, he said, I promise if a satanic statue is ever erected in the Texas Capitol, I will personally tear it down.
That name sounds familiar. Feuerstein. Isn't that a...
He, not only is he
Is there
the
another
right-wing...
Feuerstein in...
No, he's the right-wing grifter who recently ran for Texas State House and lost the GOP primary.
Oh.
Hasn't mentioned his loss.
Oh, he hasn't.
It's
That's weird.
hilarious. In any case.
So this guy's from Mississippi. Is that what we figured out?
Yeah, I think so. And then he drove up to Iowa.
Mississippi to
Anyway,
Iowa. That's a haul.
There was an update to this case in January then, because get this, the 4th-degree criminal mischief charge, the Polk County prosecutors in Iowa, give them credit for this, they upgraded his charge to a felony 3rd-degree criminal mischief charge,
Okay.
which is way more serious. Now, you can only apply that if the property damage, is like more expensive, which they said, yeah, it was up to $1,500. The Satanic Temple was like, our display is like $3,000, so it's more serious than that. But whatever. But because it's a felony, they were also able to accuse this guy of committing a hate crime.
Holy shit. From Jackson, Mississippi to Iowa City, I assume that's the capital. That's where University of Iowa is. 739 miles. It would take 11 hours to drive that. So this isn't a, like, on
Des
spur
Moines,
of a
but same
moment.
idea. Yes.
Dubuque, Des Moines,
He thought
Davenport.
about this. But he was accused of committing a hate crime because he openly said, yeah, I did it because they're Satanists, basically.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, yeah.
in a broader sense, make of Satanists what
it's
you
further.
will.
Des Moines is further than Iowa City.
Okay. He's basically saying, yeah, I did it because they're a religious minority and I hate them. And they're like,
I don't think those are the words he used, Hammett.
those are my words. But the
They're a religious
prosecutors,
minority.
the prosecutors are saying, that makes it a hate crime. And we can prosecute you for a hate crime because you destroyed the property because of their religion.
Boy, white men
And the
really
bottom
do
line-
think there will be no consequences for their action, huh?
The bottom line was that if he was found guilty of a hate crime, he now faced up to 5 years behind bars.
Uh-oh.
And the fine would have been higher too, but no one cares because they have a fundraiser for this guy. He doesn't have to pay any money. But 5 years behind bars.
Nobody
and
can
now-
fund him out of that.
Now he's like, oh shit, like I might actually
Plea
get in
bargain.
trouble. You are correct.
Woo!
So recently, according to the Des Moines Register.
You know, I never really wanted to know how the law worked. I don't want to know about appeals and plea bargains, but you've forced my hand
I
and
know.
all the true crime I watch.
So
but
basically,
mostly you.
Here's what happened recently. Cassidy, he said, I will plead guilty to a lesser charge and I will accept the consequences.
Okay.
But you can't take me to trial and try to prosecute me for hate crime.
So he's trying to get out of jail time by
Trying to get out of any
by
serious
using all of the
consequences.
money that they've paid for.
Sure, why not? And so here's
It's
the thing.
interesting that what
If
was
you're
his
the
plan before? Like, was he willing to risk a year in jail, but 5 years in jail?
I think
is
he
too
knew
much?
because he doesn't have a long criminal history, I don't think. He's
Very
like, they're not going to put me
unlikely.
in jail. I mean, Donald Trump is probably not going to go to jail because he's never been convicted of stuff before because he always wriggles out of it, right? So he's like, they're not going to put me in jail. They'll serve me a fine at worst, and I can pay it because it's not me. All the conservatives are paying for it.
Yeah.
So he's like, oh, you might actually put me in jail? Oh, no.
JK.
Let me just plead guilty and be done with it. And if you're the prosecutors, you don't give a shit if this guy goes to jail or not. You want the guilty plea.
And to
Right?
to be fair, if that guy ends up in jail, I bet he'll meet lots of friends because there's huge Aryan gangs, white nationalist gangs. Like maybe
lots of Christians.
jail is a place for him. He might find his people there,
Right.
And
So-
or get shivved.
so-
No, I don't want him to get shivved, but maybe.
So he pleaded guilty to 3rd-degree criminal mischief and as an aggravated misdemeanor, no hate crime. And he admitted in writing that he partially dismantled a display in the Iowa State Capitol building without a right or license to do so. And the damage was greater than $750. Like, it's in writing. He's pleaded guilty. Fine. What that means in reality is that 2 years probation, a civil penalty of like $855, and he has to pay some restitution.
I was gonna say, doesn't he have to like pay to replace the
And
thing
he has to
that
pay
he
to
broke?
replace the thing. And this is amusing. He would also be required to participate in a victim offender dialogue with representatives of the Satanic Temple if requested by the Satanic Temple. But basically, he's not going to jail.
Explain my face.
Yeah, it's very stoic. You have no emotion.
Not amused
You're
by
not
this
amused.
man. Oh, I'll talk to them. I can explain to them why Satan is bad. If they're open to a conversation, then I would really be happy to explain to them the virtues of Jesus.
So here's the thing. I saw a lot of talk
why he put
online.
a sledgehammer in my hand.
I saw a lot of chatter online about people saying they were very upset that he basically got let off the hook. No hate crime charges, doesn't have to pay any real penalty, isn't going to go to jail. I get that frustration.
Yeah, but
at the same time, jail time was always a big reach. It probably wasn't going to happen. And if anything, what you don't want a guy like this to do is get away with it without pleading guilty. And as a prosecutor, you just want the guilty plea and for the case to be done with. This is not a guy you want to spend a lot of time dealing with. Just get the guilty plea, move on.
In my head,
that's a victory.
I'm also thinking, if you put this to trial, like we've seen how things can be manipulated and important facts can be ruled out, on a relatively arbitrary basis. Trial is a gamble.
The threat of the hate crime charges pushed this guy to plead guilty to a lesser charge. And that's a victory for prosecutors. And the thing is, the money is not important because it's covered. It's the principle. By punishing him for what he did, and making it clear that vandalizing a religious display comes with consequences, I think the prosecutors are hoping we will deter this from ever happening in the future. And it is a victory for them. It is a victory for church-state separation, even though I saw some right-wing media outlets say prosecutors drop hate crime charge against this dude, which they did.
That's not a fair way to explain it.
Right. You could spin this however you want, and this is why people were upset. They're like, oh, they dropped the hate crime charge because he's Christian, and it's an anti-Christian thing he did, so they're like, they want to let him... No, they just wanted the guilty plea. It's fine. Let him take the guilty plea.
Yeah, we don't need to worry about how people are spinning this, I don't think.
Now, given this outcome, I was curious, where's all that money going to go that they raised for him? Guess who has the answer to that?
Ryan Walter.
The Sentinel, the right-wing media outlet that's been on top of this because they're all buddy-buddy with this dude.
Okay.
They say, after paying for multiple attorneys...
So brave.
Which this guy has, and paying the Satanic Temple for the damage he caused... any excess contributions, they said, quote, will be used to defend other Christian veterans facing legal trouble.
Veterans?
I guess he's a veteran. Facing legal trouble through a nonprofit organization called Stand With Warriors.
Oh,
so they're
go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
You know who needs to stand with warriors is the fucking U.S. government and give them health care and make sure they're not homeless on the street.
Nope,
really? This is what we're putting our money for?
They're going to protect the veterans who vandalize religious displays.
These people do not give a shit about a single human person.
They make it sound like Cassidy is the victim of religious persecution, even though he's the cause of it.
Yeah, he was the perpetrator.
Yeah. So I asked the Satanic Temple's Lucian Greaves, what do you think of the plea deal? Good, bad, what's the deal?
Hey, Dottie.
And he basically said he hoped people, supporters of Cassidy, would learn a lesson from this, that maybe there is something genuinely unethical and not merely illegal in destroying the property of a religious identity that they neither approve of nor understand. But hopefully they will at least realize that the law will act neutrally in prosecuting such attacks. Fair.
I mean, yeah, I think that's a good summation.
Mm-hmm. The question now is, besides the legal side of all this, what are Iowa lawmakers going to do this coming December? Will they maintain the open forum? Will they add extra security so something like this doesn't happen? Will they close the forum to holiday displays entirely? It has to be one of those. The one thing they cannot do is allow a nativity scene to go up while shutting out everyone else, which is what the bigots wanted.
Right.
And they can't just sit by while a religious extremist decides some displays are more worthy than others. Mm-hmm. I did find it weird that this guy vandalized the Baphomet display, but left the 2 atheist displays untouched.
No, I think the Satan thing is really what gets on our Christian skin. I don't think it's atheism. I think they really are genuinely freaked out by Satan, which is it's like being Like, it's like being afraid of your imaginary friend. Like, you made him up.
Yeah.
You don't have to be afraid of him. And by the way, we've gotten a lot of feedback that Dottie has not made many appearances on the show.
Because she's been sleeping when we've been recording
We
stuff.
finally got her to shut the fuck up while we're recording. But she's right here, and these are her... Oh, nope, she's gone.
And she's gone.
And she's gone. Oh, there she is.
And that's all I got this
is that it?
week.
Awesome. For the bonus episode, I don't have a ton. I'm going to see Paul F. Tompkins on Saturday, which I'm very excited about.
I went to a memorial service that I want to talk about.
Oh, yeah. We've been talking about that for a minute. And I found some old trophies from my athletic past that I would love to show you and have you describe on mic.
Okay, sounds good. Well, you can go to patreon.com/friendlyatheistpodcast to support this show. Please do. And you can join our Discord. Go to the Facebook group for the podcast where all the good discussions happen.
And you can leave us a review on iTunes or wherever. This is from Angel Freak in Nova.
Yes.
Hi, I'm Angel from Colorado. I love this podcast. Hammond's research is smart and thorough, and Jess's laughter and humor is delightful. I'm so surprised that I only discovered this recently, as I used to have a very atheistic space and science punk rock new wave band.
Nice.
I'm glad I finally found you. Email us. I want to hear everything. I listen all the time. Oh, bye, Dottie. She just remembered something's upstairs and has to go get it. I'm glad I finally found you. I listen all the time and watch on YouTube. I let the religious and conservative commercials play to the end while I do dishes and other things because I know it takes money from them and gives it to you, and that's freaking hilarious. Keep up the great work, science and honor. Oh, that was wonderful.
Lovely.
Thank you. Honestly, I'm going to tell Mikey about that. He's going to be fucking stoked. Science, punk, rock, new wave band.
And with that, we'll see you next week.
Bye.